This video is going to show a new toolpath instruction called Etch. Etch is primarily used to engrave letters or simple 2D shapes like this, where you have shapes inside of other shapes. So here in this case we have a rectangle on the outside, then we have this other polyline on the inside, and this is called an island of the outer shape here. And then inside of this island we have more sub-items or sub-islands. And this is a common sequence of islands that you have for engraving. And sometimes what you may want to do is pocket out one of these shapes here and leave an island standing with different patterns or different ways of machining. So before we jump into letters and real engraving, we're going to show how we can use the Etch to how to pocket this out, and then we'll go on to do some letters. Okay, so we're just going to insert an Etch instruction. Make sure our tool 12, which is an engraving tool, is selected. And the most important thing here is that we have the chains to etch. So we can just come over here, click on this, and just like any other chain for a pocket or a profile, we're just going to select the outside here. And that's going to give us all of these, anything that's contained in this outside shape. Okay, so after we've done that, we now right-click on the Etch instruction and we say Discover Etch Levels. And what this is doing is this is discovering all of the different islands or levels that are embedded in the previous parent items or islands, okay? So then that fills in this Etch Levels item right here, and we can go through and we can see what it has discovered here. Okay, so level 1 is just the outermost shape, and then it leaves the area in the middle, the island out in the middle. Level 2 does the same thing, only it starts from the first island and then goes to the second level of islands. Now level 3 is interesting because we have 2 islands inside of this other island, so it kind of considers these at the same level. Okay, so level 3 actually has 2 islands in it, and you'll see when we get a whole bunch of letters on the screen, we're going to have a lot of islands that are kind of siblings to one another, like this is here. And then item number 4 is just this last little triangle. So now let's just go ahead and just compile the Etch and see what it gives us kind of as a default. When we compile that, we get a shape that looks like this. And if we kind of rotate around, you can see it puts these toolpath lines in, and what it does by default, it just rotates every successive island by 45 degrees. Okay, and you can change that, of course, but we'll just show the first one here, the level 1, is going to leave the inside standing, so it's not going to cut anything out of the inside. It's just going to do this back and forth island shape at 0 degrees. Okay, so it's just going to go in the vertical direction. Okay, so now if I comment that out and just leave number 2 in, it rotates at 45 degrees and just does a pocket there. And now this is going to be perfectly horizontal, and the last one is going to be another 45 degrees. And so if we machine this out, even though the pockets are all going to be at the same level, it'll be very obvious that these are different shapes. You'll clearly be able to see the different islands here. Just because of the mechanics of cutting, you can always tell patterns like this. Okay, so now just to kind of go over some of the options here. In dimensions, we have standard things like clearance, rapid to height. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Then we have a pocket depth and a profile depth, and these can be different values. So the first thing, let's just look at level 1 to make it a little bit simpler. You can see that it's going to first do a kind of a profile around the perimeter of this island 1, and then it's going to pocket it out. Okay, so we can change those 2 depths independently, which is sometimes preferable. So we can change, say, the depth to negative, well, make it a big number so we can see 50 thou. And when we type that in, this says this is going to change the depth in all of the Etch patterns. So that's basically going to take that 50 thou that we entered in and insert it into level 1 through 4, all of the levels that are here. Okay, so we're going to hit yes on that, and I'll explain that more in a second. So now you can see that our pocket depth is 50 thousandths below our profile depth. So if we want to come over here and say negative 100 thou, we can now see that our profile depth is 100 thousandths. Okay, so let's turn on another one here, level 2, so we can see everything is, down below like that. So now for whatever reason, if we want to come over here and change our profile depth compared to our pocket depth in just one level, we can do that. So right now it looks like these the locations of these are a little bit scattered here. We may organize this a bit, but our depth, which was set from the overall etch instruction for level 2, is the 50,000. So if I just wanted to go say 25 thousandths instead for the level 2, you can see that now the level 2 is not being cut as deep. It only goes down to 25 thou. And the profile, we can change it to say negative 0.2, and that's going to cut that much deeper. So you can see we have kind of, we're setting kind of the values up here, the default values for all the levels underneath it, and then we can override those individually for each level. Okay, we also have a way that we can change the zigzag angle. Okay, so if we wanted to do say 30 degrees instead of 45 degrees, we can do that, and then recompile just the one pocket, or you can do them all by clicking up here, and then we get a 30-degree angle here. Okay, so and max step over is exactly what it sounds like. That's the spacing between our step over there. So this is the same question. This says, do we want to change the step over in all of the etch patterns? So that's going to then set 20 thousandths to all of these sub items here. And then again, we can override these for each of the levels. So if we wanted to make just level 2 40 thousandths step over, which would give us a kind of a different pattern, we can do that. Okay. So now we have 20 thousandths for the mains, and then the next one here is 40. So using those techniques I just explained, you can basically customize these pockets and all these inner islands to cut in any way that you want. And I should also clarify that the reason we're doing a parallel pocketing routine is because that's usually preferable just for the aesthetics of this for engraving. Okay, so we actually can come over here and change this over to, let's see, in our pocket options, we can change it from our zigzag pocket style to high-speed machining, and then you kind of get the loops that you would in a normal pocket. It's usually not preferable for engraving. Okay, so here's how we, this is another file, a different file. This is how we do the DM logo. This is just a sketch that we created right in the software. So we start off with just 2 circles here, put some DM text, and we add some lines to connect the D and the M to the outside shape, and then we do some trims. And then we have the sketch right here that we can do the same etch operation on. So we'll just say, click on the outside here, and discover the etch levels, and then we'll just recompile it. And then you can see we get a shape like that. And what we typically do is we come over here and we just set the level 1 to do the profile only, and we don't pocket out the level 1. And this just looks nice. So what this does, this actually leaves the D and the M standing, and then kind of this area around the outside, it leaves that standing, and it just machines out around the D and the M. Yeah, so this is called standing letters in the pocket. Okay, so now we're going to show another way that we can do fonts quickly. Let's go to new. So you can always, we've always had this ability to come over here and just do create text, and then you can select your font and all this other stuff, and so there I just made direct motion. So we can, this is just a normal sketch, so of course we can do the etch operation on that. I'm going to show an even faster way. You can insert an etch instruction, and rather than selecting a chain from the sketch or from a 3D model, you can right click on the chains and say add a font chain. Okay, so what this does is this just gives you a different type of chain that doesn't pull from a sketch or a 3D model. It just basically creates a font right inside of the chain. So we can come over here and just type in whatever we want. Defaults to test. We'll do, I'll just do direct motion again. Okay, and then the font size is 1, and we'll pick, I don't know, pick this one right there. Okay, so then we can come over here and we can see there's our direct motion. And that font's not very good because we don't have much room to actually cut there. Let me select a better one. Let's just pick this one right here. Okay. So that's pretty much it. So then you can just continue on as you normally would, just discover etch levels. We get 2 levels here, which makes sense. All of the outers there and then the inners, and then we can just recompile that, and we get you know, our etches right there. So yeah, kind of a quick way to do some text and fill the letters inside. Now if you wanted to do a standing system, then you have to have a shape outside of this, okay? So that gets a little bit more complicated. It's not that bad, but you would just have to make a sketch and then do create rectangle, 2-corner rectangle, do something like that. And then up here in the chains, we can just select that outside rectangle. So now we have in the chains to etch, we have the font, and then we have the outside rectangle. So when I discover the etch levels, it's going to now consider all of those. So now we should have 3 levels, and then I can recompile, and you'll see it considers everything all at once. Okay. So now we can do standing letters if we just want to. Well, let's see. We would do something like that. So now this will pocket out everything around the main letters, and then just get the inside, kind of like where this E is, you know, this open area in here. Yeah. Okay, so that explains most of the etch toolpath instruction here. I'm going to show one more here. Okay, so this is some text that was created probably by SolidWorks or another CAD system, and we just imported this as a step file. So we can also etch out just the text over here and just cut this out. So we'll just go over here and do etch, and then we're going to have to, because we have a model, we're going to have to select this corner right here, and yep, that's good enough. So as long as we have our Z going up, okay. So now chains to etch, we can just come over here and select the face, or we could have selected the outer edge, either one's fine. And then again, just do discover etch levels, and then we'll compile them. And now we should have a few, yep, so we actually have 5 etch levels there. So I'm not too sure what they all are, but let's just go ahead and comment them all out, and then just look at them one by one. So the outside one is what we would expect. It's kind of the rectangular frame around the routler. And then we have this inner one here, which is a secondary frame. And then there's another island, so we've got a lot of you know, sub-islands inside of other islands here. Okay, so I don't think we would want to cut this out right here. So we actually probably, when we picked our chains, we probably could have just picked like this outside dimension instead of the whole face here. But anyway, it's fine. We don't have to machine that. We can just leave level 1 commented out and just focus on the routler in here. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's just simulate that real quick, and yep. So I'm sure it's doing the right thing in there. We can dig in a little bit more and just kind of confirm it, but yeah, it's kind of nice to look at it from the back side. You can kind of see the different areas a little bit better, maybe. Okay, so I guess that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.